We do have a quorum. We can start. Susan's supposed to be coming, but we can start.
Jewish thing.
Okay, I move that we start the meeting, but I sent an email out just 10 minutes ago, and I just want to mention that I have been taking minutes now for probably over 2 years. So going forward, it would be nice if we took turns doing minutes. I know it's sort of a last minute request, so I will do it again tonight, but throwing it out there, okay? But I will do the minutes now.
I agree,
Cheryl, I'll do
Cheryl.
them.
Yeah.
I agree. You've
Cheryl,
done a great
Yeah,
job for a long time.
if we want to just rotate them, is that what you're saying? I'm
That's
totally happy
well,
to
that's
do
what we did years ago when people were willing to
Yeah.
do that. Yes. For a while there, we
I'll-
had people who either weren't regularly showing up or didn't have computers or whatever. I don't know. Okay.
I'll do them next time. I'll be happy to
Great.
do it.
Thank you, Beth.
Thanks, Beth. What you doing, sweetie? What's the matter?
So we shouldn't talk about.
So I
So,
move that we call the meeting to order. Is that what you want to do?
yeah, do we have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Jeff. Cheryl, these are excellent notes. Minutes, I'm sorry, minutes.
Good.
There's a few spelling corrections. That's all I noticed.
All right. Go ahead.
You know what, when they were up on the computer, it highlighted them. Now I have to find
Well,
them.
nothing's highlighted on mine. That's why, except with like missing words like that and stuff, but I don't have anything highlighted, but
Yeah, there was, let's see. Okay, on page 2, the second
Mhm.
paragraph, Jane Hotchkiss, it has 2 S's at the end.
good. That I would not know. Or I wouldn't catch, I should say. Okay,
There was another thing on page 2.
okay.
Gosh, there was just Sachem's Cove.
Oh, I'm sure I'm spelled that wrong because
Yeah, you put SATCHEM. Look for it, and it's in a couple places.
all right, and it's spelled what? How do you spell it? What's the correct spelling?
SACHEM. There's no
S-A-C-H. Oh, no M.
no T. No
No
T.
T, gotcha.
Yeah, no T.
All right, I'll fix those.
Okay, there's one place where you had, oh, here we go. On the second page, on the first paragraph, the third line down.
Mhm.
Nope, I'm sorry, that's not it. There's somewhere where you have White Pond and the T and the I are reversed.
Huh, okay, I'll check for that.
Okay. Otherwise, that's what all it was. It was just spellings.
Okay,
Spellings.
whoops. It's where the I and the. what
The
was
I
it?
and the T are reversed.
Okay,
I'm sorry, I wish I could
no,
find.
that's all right. I should be able to put it in like my search and.
Well, can we say that we accept the minutes with minor corrections that Cheryl's doing and resubmit them so we can get going?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
So I'll second that motion.
I just wanted to call people's attention to a new book that's out in the town. It's called, I don't know if you can see it there, with Ecology Along Concord Trails. Delia wrote it, as it did Professor Richard Foreman, who taught ecology for 36 years at Harvard. It's this really beautiful book of maps and all about the trails in Concord. It describes as you go along the trails, what you see, its history, it's everything. It's really nice. It's available at the visitor center. Attention. And then that's the only extra. And now we have reviewing plans for Kelly Carson and Carol Parker. And I sent you all copies of the plans, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
But Carol, you might have ones to share with us.
Well, I think probably the easiest thing to look at, and we'll see if I accomplish, oh, wait a minute, I need to share it before I find it. Here it is. Let's see. Can you see it now?
No,
No,
can't.
Okay, so I've failed.
Are your plans pretty much what you sent me in the attachments?
Yes, I think the survey drawing is the easiest to understand, which I think is page 3 in it. Sorry, I'm having such a hard time doing this.
Oh, that's okay. I had a hard time setting up for something I was going to share later too. I fully understand.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Actually, the photographs are very helpful.
Okay, great. I mean, what we're
Well,
proposing,
can you share, Carmen, what you sent out earlier? If Carol's not able to, it's better just to look at them, isn't it?
Hold on just a second. Just a second.
Great.
there you go.
We're seeing it.
okay, are you seeing a survey site plan? Or are you seeing something else?
This is
Yeah,
a
it's a
site,
plot plan.
this is a survey plan, yeah.
Good, then I managed to share it. I think this is the easiest to understand, although Carmen's right, the pictures probably helped too. What we're proposing to do is extend our existing side deck 7 feet so that it meets our existing back deck. It's kind of like a corner piece that we want to extend.
Sorry.
The back deck, which I'm now pointing to with the cursor, is about 20 inches higher than the side deck. And so we also propose to lift the side deck 20 inches so it's one continuous thing. The other thing is there's a little roof over the back door. We would propose to extend that so that we could screen in this area. So that's what we'd like to do. If it would help to see the photograph, you can do that, I think.
The one where you're looking at your back deck and then the side deck to the left is very helpful. You can see the 2 different levels
Yeah,
and you can see the roof.
let me see if I can find that, because I know I had that a minute ago.
It says, is it the back upper and side lower deck JPG? The 2 JPG documents,
Yes.
like about 10
Yeah.
down?
Where are you seeing it?
Because I can see all her documents, so that's what I'm thinking. If you keep going, they're there. Like go down to about 11 back, keep going.
Am I on my way there?
Yep.
Okay.
Right, there's one. Those 2 right there. Keep going.
Okay.
Yeah. The JPEGs will, yeah, there.
That one.
There it is. This is the one
Yeah.
that I think is going to be useful if I can get it to show. Yeah, there it is. That's the existing back deck. That's the existing side deck. And this is 20 inches. So if this goes up, then they're the same height. And what you can't tell it as easily from this is that the distance between the end of this and the beginning of this is 7 feet. And so that would extend to here. And then this roof would extend further so that it could be screened in.
Oh, I see. And your door is higher, so it's not going to be, when you raise it, it's not going to be as high as the door.
Right.
Still going to be able to use the
Exactly right.
door.
It'll be right to about here.
Yeah, okay. Do you have a gutter on the, that roof at all?
There is a gutter, yes.
There is, okay, so the gutter will extend,
Yes.
okay. It's a very sensible change. I can see. Yeah, very nice. Does anybody else have
So do you-
questions?
Yeah, I just have a couple. So the back deck that you're connecting is, since I can only see the door, is that screened in or is that the house?
That's the house. This is
So
not
you're going to
screened
screen
and
in,
wouldn't be.
are you going to screen everything in or just that one section?
We'd only screen this side.
And then, so then you'd have where you connect it, another door going to the outside deck. And then do you have to put new footings in?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. There was a little, like a sketchy drawing, and there's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's got 5 footings, but the drawing shows 4 footings, so there'll be an extra footing.
Let's see. I'll pull up that picture. This.
That's it. If you come down a bit, yeah. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 footings. You have a little drawing out to side. Is it, you're putting in one more footing for that corner to go around?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I'm
Okay,
sorry,
cool.
quality of this.
And it's just going down, it's leading, the additional steps are just leading down to your existing brick patio.
Right.
So it's not like you're removing any plants or anything like that. It's just going to a place that already has a patio there. So,
Oh, right. But we are not putting a door there. That'll just end. The door is just right here,
Mhm.
and will just be a stepping stone down with the way so I'm sorry, I wasn't clear about.
oh, so there's no step down. It's just the existing stairs will be there. You're not adding any stairs.
We're not adding any stairs.
Okay, I
We're taking
misunderstood.
away
I
the
thought I
existing
heard
stairs.
earlier that there were going to be stairs. Nope. Okay, got it. No stairs.
It's just one step down from here, but that's
Yeah. Okay, I misunderstood.
well, I was totally unclear.
Carol, excuse my ignorance, where is Eaton in relation to White Pond?
Okay, let's see. How do I describe that?
Do you know Dover, Beth, that you turn in
Yeah.
on Dover? Okay, so if you
Yeah.
turned in on Dover, you have Bolton left and right coming off, the first streets you see. And
Yeah.
then you have a couple side streets, is that right? And then you come to Eaton, which goes left and right off of Dover. And she's
Okay.
left, she's going towards what they call the occasional water land. So it's away
Oh,
from the
okay.
pond.
It's a pretty far away, so even if the
Yes.
runoff is not at all.
No.
Okay,
No, just.
thanks.
Yeah.
Yep. Carol, can I ask one more question before we say yes or whatever we're doing? Do you also have to, because I did an addition here, I'm newer to Concord, but I did an addition last year, and I had to send like certified letters to like 10 abutters from my house to have this approved. Do you have to do the same thing
What
after you get our approval?
It's in the process of happening now because I had to go before the Zoning Board of Appeals. And part of the their process is when they approve something, they then send to all the abutters, and if the abutters object, then there's further discussion. So yeah,
Okay. Oh,
short answer is yes, but it happens by the town sending it rather than me.
oh, okay, interesting. So I had to send it myself for mine. I was just curious. Okay, well,
Yeah,
what do we do now?
Is that still all in process to get?
it should be winding up shortly.
Okay,
To the best of my knowledge, there hasn't been an objection, or I think they would have told me.
okay.
And the 2 weeks, I think, ends tomorrow, which is the window for it.
So I move that we send a letter, or that the committee sends a letter to the plant or the building department, as I think that keeps asking us every time, indicating that we do not have any concerns regarding this project.
Right, yeah, I'll do that.
Thank you.
I agree.
I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for all the plans. It was very clear. The photographs were great.
Oh, I'm so glad that it was useful. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Good
Now
luck with it.
Stop sharing.
Okay.
Stop sharing. There, now I've gone away. Thank you.
Okay.
We'll all visit it soon and stay away from the mosquitoes.
Oh, we didn't tell her that. That was part of the requirements of our committee. We have to visit, we have to go there and you have to provide refreshments.
Get some wine
I
and
was about saying, of course. See you this summer.
okay, thank you, Carol. All righty. Okay, now we have tonight with us Officer Ron Holsinger, who's been very helpful in regard to matters around White Pond. And I know what we're interested in is kind of like the schedule of how the police think, that they will patrol and such over the summer around the pond, and that kind of things like that, and what problems are.
I was thinking maybe we could use Carol's porch as a little substation.
I'll add that to the minutes to the.
All right.
Okay.
Great idea.
Okay.
And before you start, thanks so much. I know I was the one who contacted you and through emails, back and forth. Thanks for the information you provided, and thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah.
And periodically, you can continue.
Yeah, of course,
Yes,
definitely.
thank you very much.
Yeah.
We need to hear from the police before the season starts.
Yeah.
Of how they plan to do things.
Yeah, and I'll preface some of my comments by saying, I'm not the police chief or the town manager or the rec department, so I can't, completely speak for, what the town has in store for, the Association Beach now that's under the rec department, or the Sachem Coves area. I can just basically speak for how we can, assist you with our patrol operations.
Okay, that's what we need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I saw that one of the people that was helping, Jane Prentice, was helping clean up by the beach, and she emailed Kate Hodges about this. It was some teenagers underage, and they were drinking and such. And Kate sent it to Captain Mulcahy, and he replied that they would be checking more. It's kind of a hidden area back behind the lifeguard hut.
Yes.
That they're using. And
yeah, and that's always really important because the neighborhood is really our eyes and ears down there. So anything you notice like that, if you pass it along, that's helpful for us to know what the basically the current activity is like and where the the local hangouts are. So that's definitely important. And I can just just so you have some background. So we run a shift of 3 patrol officers and 1 sergeant. So at any given time, there's 4 officers assigned to any shift. 1 officer is assigned just to West Concord, so everything west of Route 2. 1 officer is assigned to what we call the central sector, sort of downtown Concord, and then 1 officer is assigned to the east sector. So, out Bedford, Lexington, Lowell, Monument Street, that area. And, as it pertains to White Pond, we do on on nice weekend days, we'll try to supplement that with a bicycle officer. On a Saturday or Sunday, and they will sort of that will be sort of a whole town patrol, but focusing mostly on conservation areas. So that's sort of the basic operations of the police department on a day-to-day basis.
Okay.
And then we'll put out what we call directed patrols of certain areas, depending on, complaints or concerns we're getting. And obviously one for many years has always been White Pond. And it is, I mean, the difficulty, especially of Sachem's Cove, is just access. It is somewhat difficult for officers to find a decent place to park and then spend the time to walk down to that area. Especially if, like I said, we just have one officer assigned to West Concord. In general, we try not to be that far away from our car in case we needed to get to another emergency. So you'll probably see, I don't know if you've noticed this, but you'll see frequently they'll drive down, the old county road or boat launch, whatever you want to call it. But you probably see them last walking down to Sachem's Cove. But again, we'll definitely try if we know there are, issues going on, we'll definitely spend the time to check on it.
We appreciate that. The officer on the bike is probably your best way, because he can kind of come under the culvert from Powder
Yeah.
Mill and access to there. Really, the whole question with Sachem's is you're not supposed to swim from conservation land. There's signs up for no swimming, but on weekends, you'll have, there's been a count of 175 people at that end of the pond. And the concern about that is, one, there's no lifeguards or anything. If there's a medical emergency, like you have trouble getting to it, there's trouble to getting to that. And it's also the water. There's a tremendous amount of trash and waste, both dog and human waste, in the woods. It's a confusion about how you really say to we've been told by the rangers that they just are there to educate. They're not there to tell people you can't swim, go home or something like that. And I don't know if the police can do that.
Well, I think it's a difficult thing to strictly enforce, to take actual, I would say like a citation action, because I've had people argue with me saying, well, you didn't see me get in the water. Once
Right.
I'm in the water, now I'm in the
Yes.
Great Pond. And so,
Yeah.
I would let the person's actions sort of dictate the outcome. If you ask them, hey, listen, or explain to them, listen, you're not supposed to enter the water from here. You're not supposed to be swimming from here. 90% of people will say, oh, sorry, didn't realize it, or didn't notice the 15 signs when we walked in. In my experience, if someone starts to put up an argument, that's when we would, pull out the bylaw citation book and probably write them a ticket and say, okay, well, if you feel that strong about arguing it, you can appeal it to the townhouse and tell them what your opinion is. But that's, from my experience, that's how officers will handle it. I think some common sense will dictate how the outcome of the situation.
Okay, sometimes there's drinking. They're on their floaties drinking.
Yeah, that's definitely,
Sure.
that's an easier enforcement action. Open container is a pretty well-known and basic law in Massachusetts, as well as the town has its own bylaw on open container and drinking in public. So that would be, I think, that's something that would be processed through a criminal summons.
But the thing
Not-
is, it's just like you say, it's the difficult access. They can be there, and then by the time an officer's free to get there,
Yeah,
and again, it is not safe for you to be far from your cars.
yeah. But
Sure.
if there is a complaint, if you call us, that's different than if we're just out on patrol and we just wanted to check the area. But if you see people openly drinking or any other situation, you can feel free to call and we'll walk down there,
Okay.
You're, officer, you're welcome to park at our house.
Okay,
27 Hemlock Street. We're right at we're right in the path that goes down to the cove.
yep, okay.
So,
Are you basically the last house at
it's
the end?
that's the house in the woods.
Yeah.
How would you describe it?
Brown house or something?
It's a brown house in the woods. I mean,
Yeah,
maps show this as Varick Street.
Yeah, I think I know exactly where that is. Yeah.
Yeah,
All right, I'll let people know that.
yeah.
And it was 27, you said?
Well, our address is 27 Hemlock Street. Yeah, and that would, from our house, it's a short walk to the cove. That would save.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you go to the end of Dover and you keep going down and you start to go up again, they're there on the left, right, Howard?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I did have a chance to briefly speak with Delia, and she says that the Rangers have been budgeted for this year as well.
Yeah,
Oh, good.
I heard that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there was this was her and I, sort of talking off the record. There's some thought of maybe trying to have a full-time town ranger that would be spread from, because we are getting kind of bombarded with complaints from the recreational and conservation areas. So there's becoming a need or a want for a full-time town ranger. And luckily one of the national park rangers has recently retired from his position there and is might be interested in the town position.
When you say permanent, you mean year round?
Yeah, that was my understanding of another full-time year-round employee.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yes, we've just actually hired that one.
Oh, good.
Wait, well,
Are you talking about this is Jane, the new
Yeah.
ranger? Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait,
we just hired a year round ranger?
well, the territory is not necessarily assigned to White Pond right now, but it's, there's been a new person added to the staff. Yes.
Oh, is that
Yeah.
Will Holden, the land manager?
No, the Wilder Holden, the land manager, is the land manager.
Okay.
Although
uh,
I'm sure he'll be actively getting to know all the special spots like White Pond. So,
The gentleman I'm thinking of is Bill Brooks.
right,
He used to be one of the rangers at the national park.
exactly.
Yeah.
So then will that, Jane or Ron, is that person going to be at multiple properties like Estabrook and White Pond, or how will that be divvied up? Do
I
you know?
think what it may be is that one person is going to be assigned one area of Concord and another person to the other. In other words, rather than having a much bigger territory surveyed by fewer people.
And then one of the things that happened, and that's good to know, thank you, and that makes sense
Yeah.
too.
Mhm.
I think one of the things that happened when we did get the ranger, at the latter end of last summer, which was helpful, is that I know Delia she felt pretty strongly about not having that ranger working both Saturday and a Sunday. So when I saw two, I was thinking maybe they would split the days, so one would be Sunday through Wednesday, because Saturday and Sunday are, real trouble days here.
Yeah.
So I don't know, in a combination with these rangers and or the police, because I would feel like the police would be getting bothered more on Saturdays and Sundays than, regular days. So
Is
do
that
you
a
know
question
if
for
that,
me or the officer?
it's for you, Jane? I mean, it's for, because you kind of know, you know about the ranger being hired. Will they be able to work on weekends?
That's to be discussed. I don't want to speak for Delia and the the schedules that she's assigned. That's not under my purview, but I will certainly get back to everybody as soon as I find out.
Thank you.
And I
That'd
think
be
you're
great.
making a good
Thanks.
point. So, unfortunately, the point is probably also able to be made at many different parts of Concord.
Yeah. I
Although they're
totally
not
understand.
necessarily as attractive as a swimming place in the summer.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. I feel like, I live on White Avenue, and Officer Holsinger, for your information, will be, people feel like they're bothering the police, with some of these things and gatherings and stuff, but, because it doesn't seem like it's something that should take over what you're doing all the time.
No, I wouldn't hesitate to call. If there is the occasion where we have to stack calls or we get very busy, we sort of triage them. And, if we can't get to it immediately, then we'll get to it as soon as possible. But I would never hesitate to call and let us know what's going on.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
And yeah, I think with, the completion of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail Bridge, it obviously will become more and more of an issue. And we are aware of that. That's part of the reason why we're trying to put out more bicycle patrols. And it is a kind of if we're out patrolling the trail anyways, we might as well just hop off and come down to the pond.
Carmen, am I free to speak? This
Yes.
is Andrea Siani.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I just wanted to say, just having been a director of the beachfront for 30 plus years, one of the things we found very effective is early in the season, getting the message out that it's not like Sachem Cove is not a swimming hole. Because what happens is then they pass that message to others. Oh, you get bothered there. It's not the place to go. Whereas at the beginning of the season, if you get people come, they each tell 10 people and you have then the 100 and some that start to come. So we found on the county road, when they would come to the left side there, if at the beginning of the season, we sent the message, we called the police, they came, they gave that message, it just reduced it drastically during the season. So because I do think that the hazard is that when it becomes 100 people, there's no facilities there. And if they're coming for the day with their coolers and there's no swimming, as soon as you're gone, they're swimming. We know that, everyone knows that. So it's just a real dilemma. And then where are they using the facilities? Where are they peeing and pooing? And then that washes into the pond. So it's a real dilemma. So, but I do think the early season, having people there to say, hey, you guys, this is not a swimming place. This is, conservation land, pass through, sit, enjoy it, but move on. At least that message, it may just make the season a little easier.
Yeah, no, that's a great suggestion. Thank you.
How did you get that out? How did you get the message out? What?
By having the police come to have,
Okay.
send that message early in the season, because then each of those people feel bothered. They came down, then they had to leave and they wasn't swimming. And then they didn't tell 10 other people, hey, that's a great swimming hole. And it just would reduce the season, because I feel like the message spreads quickly. So that's what we felt was a little more, just helped with the effectiveness of the rangers and the police. And
Okay.
so, to think in the beginning to report if it's if people are misusing or so. And I had a totally unrelated question to summer. I was curious a couple times when the county road was not plowed this winter. And I wondered about safety. If somebody was ice fishing and fell in and that road it wasn't accessible, that seemed like it's the first time I'd seen that.
Really?
Yeah.
Because at a meeting they said, no, that is not going to be plowed in the winter.
Yeah, that's the first time I've ever seen it not plowed that I remember. And I don't know if other people remember who walk in the neighborhood. Katie, do you think it's been plowed before? You're muted.
Wait, okay.
Yeah,
There have been many years when it has not been plowed. In fact, people used to sled down it. But I think that's a very good point, that it is a safety issue. But in years past, it's been iced over, snowed over, whatever.
yeah. I know it wasn't kept beautifully plowed, but I don't remember walking and seeing it absolutely snowed in. If somebody ice fisherman was drowning, you would not be able to get down there.
Yeah.
I think my husband saying the same thing. We walk all the time and I just have never seen it. Not beautifully plowed and sanded or anything, but it's always been accessible.
Yeah.
It was impassable and I thought, oh, wow, that's kind of dangerous. So I
Yeah.
just wondered if the police and fire want to just reassess that as, because I believe it had been made accessible.
And speaking of things spreading, Katie Blair, 20 Darton Street. Last year and this year, we also have COVID. And last year it was very scary for those of us who lived in the neighborhood to have people walking down Dover Street, walking into, on all of the different side streets, and then ringing the pond, nobody wearing masks. And then potentially going to Crosby's, going to Verrill, going to wherever they go and spreading COVID. So I think it could be that COVID could be a tool that we can use to say, you guys, first of all, you need to social distance. And second of all, you can't go in the pond. And third of all, there's too many of you. Some of you have to leave. But none of that happened last year.
Yeah.
And it was, it was such an interesting contrast. You had Sachem's Cove with 100 and something people. And then over at the recreation beach, everybody was kept in these little squares, with their masks on. So it really was odd to me. And I couldn't quite figure out how the town had, they're both town properties now, how the town was letting, we called it COVID Cove, because it was just all these people. And then the recreation department was okay with it. So, parking, traffic, all those things, we do call you guys and we're very grateful that you come, but it's not just, oh, we don't want people in the neighborhood. It's that there's actual safety concerns.
That's a good point.
No, it's all great information. And I think that we did, it was kind of a perfect storm, last year with every conservation area in town was really getting slammed. Both parking, overcrowded. And to some degree, I don't think anyone was quite prepared for it and how to respond to it and what to do. But I think this year will obviously be a little more, on the ball. We've obviously been dealing with COVID for a while now and know that these are going to be troubled areas.
Yeah.
Regarding the plowing of that, the state road there, I could see there's concerns about, I don't know where they would move that snow, except sort of into the pond, right? It's a hard place to plow.
But a lot of times there was, there's a turnout area to the right as you go down and they used to kind of plow it up over there. And so, no, it wasn't plowed into the pond.
Well, if you've got to have an emergency vehicle that's going to go down there, pick somebody up and turn around and come back up, you got to plow the whole thing, right? You're not going to get a fire truck or an emergency vehicle down there and then back up that hill. So you would have to plow the entire thing if you want an emergency vehicle down there. And I can imagine that would, I don't know where you would put the snow, and that would be a potential issue for the pond. And if it's just plowed slightly, you will also pretend, I don't know, just something to think about.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I was surprised because I don't think I'd ever seen it impassable in the way I had when I was out walking. So I don't know what the town.
That is a good point. And I'd ask Kate about that because it was in the My Pond improvement plan where somebody asked about the 3-season bathrooms and stuff. And that's why I heard that there would be no plans to plow that road.
That's
just think
my recollection.
that's-
That's why they were gonna put the
Yeah.
toilets up at the top for
Right.
for fishermen, up on the parking lot, which is where they've been putting them.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't want to speak for, the highway department but I think you're not allowed to use sand and salt down there,
Right,
which I would just wonder if without using that on that steep of a pitch,
it's
it's going to be difficult.
dangerous. Yeah, it's dangerous.
Yeah, that's a good, when I, run into my counterparts at highway and the fire department, I'll mention it to them.
Yeah,
just
just,
see what the consensus is on it.
yeah, just see
I'd
what
like
they
to hear
think in
that.
terms of the ice fishermen. Is that a safe decision?
Yeah,
Being a public access way. So
Yeah.
it made me curious because I really had never seen that. So,
yeah, it would be extremely difficult to do an ice rescue down there with,
yeah.
I mean, it's manageable. You have to carry everything down, but it would be very difficult.
Yeah.
My understanding is there are a lot of these great ponds do not have roads directly to them. We have
Yeah.
one, but there are great ponds that do not have any roads access. So
Yeah.
it's not.
I'm trying to, and I can't, off the top of my head, I can't picture if Walden Pond plows that access road.
Yeah, good question. And then it might be on the other side, the sideway one, but I'm
Yeah.
not sure either. It's a good
Because I know
question.
I mean, I've been to ice rescues there, and I think it was just in the time of year when, because I remember the ambulance drove right down.
Yeah.
We did a survey when I first got on the committee about, whether there was a requirement to have a road down there, because we were just sort of curious. And there are plenty of great ponds that do not have any
Yeah.
access. They might have a dirt road, but that's about it.
Yeah,
Well, it's interesting because I know that when we were running the pond, Dick Hale always wanted to investigate removing that road as a
Right.
public access. He always was on that. And it was told, no, that is a permanent, that has to be, that's a requirement of the Great Pond. That's what we were always
No,
told.
we were told it was permanent because it sort of was already in place and all that
Right.
sort of stuff. But there are great ponds that don't have roads to them.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Okay, well, Officer Hulsinger, I think there'll be some other questions when Pam Reed presents her document that I emailed you the document from
Yep.
Pam. Yep. So Pam, can you share your screen with that?
Yes, sorry, I don't know if did I get it up on my screen? I should have done that.
Let me.
While you put it up on, well, sorry, so I'm Pam Reed from 13 Dover Street. I'm just part of our little Dover Street Property Owners Association. And I know last year was a whole big perfect storm of everything. We've had years of, good years and bad years in the neighborhood in terms of, traffic and speeding. I live right at the top of Dover, and my house all summer long, I can see just this steady stream of, people walking by my house. I think last summer I counted, there was 22 people in a family with coolers and floaties and grandparents and grandkids. And, it was a crazy summer, right? COVID, and it was hot and people wanted to get out and do stuff. But we were definitely dealing with a lot of just danger in the neighborhood in terms of speeding. And that's what, and sorry, Carmen, I'm still trying to find, I have it on my, actually, you know what? Let me go to my Google Drive. And so like a handful of us, like level-headed neighbors, got together and wrote this document. And okay, and it's only 2.5 pages or 2.25 pages. And, I was hoping, Officer Holsinger and, Jane Hotchkiss, if I didn't know who to kind of show this to, it's not too long, I was hoping at some point,
Right.
you guys could read it.
So I have it up now, Pam. Can you guys all see it?
Can you see it? Oh, did you do
Yes.
that?
Yep.
Yes, thanks, Beth.
I just put it up.
You
Okay,
put up?
so, yeah,
So, it's a lot of what we've already talked about. I guess there's the whole problem with, Sakeum's Cove and the amount of people and no bathrooms and all that. And I know, the town is hopefully working on that, but more of my concern also is like number one, this excessive speed and illegal parking in the neighborhood. And Beth, I'm wondering, were you sharing that or was I sharing that? Can you guys see
I
it?
thought but whoever can take control of the screen. If you've got it up, Pam, take control because you can
All right.
scroll then.
Okay, yes. Okay, I have it
yeah,
up and
there
I'm
it is.
scrolling here. So
Good.
just the excessive speed and illegal parking, and here's our like issues and action plan. I won't read it all, but there were two issues. Number one, the excessive speed and illegal parking, and then number two, this, the amount of people going to Sakeum's Cove. And you see the action plan, we kind of had three parts. Part one, like enforcing existing regulations, procedures, and law. Part two was, maybe educating and correcting the misinformation on social media. And that could be like, hey, I just went to White's Pond and beautiful, this is how you get down to the cove. I don't know if there's somewhere, we can try and head off that type of information. And then our part three was moving forward. But this part one, like enforcing the existing regulations, procedures, and laws. Number one, it sounds like that's happening, right? The Ranger program, we used to have it like 2 years ago, and then it got cut out of the budget. And the last year was obviously COVID, wackiness, and, things were really bad. So I'm definitely happy to hear, this Ranger program is back in the works. And we just had some suggestions, we have at the end of the document, we have a list of laws and bylaws that a ranger can follow. For example, the litter and trash state law, if they, or the alcohol beverage law. That's at the end of, and so a big thing number two, and Officer Holsinger, I don't know if this is something, I guess I'm speaking to you. I didn't know.
Yeah.
It's crazy how fast, I'm at the top of Dover before Plainfield. And people like coming from the conservation land, like my house is, 20 feet till the end of the road, and they are flying. When I first moved here and I had young kids, I like camped at the top of my driveway, with a chair, and because it was just I couldn't understand how they were going that fast before the end of the road. And also like people turning onto Dover from Plainfield and just, accelerating, going down Dover, and they're going into the conservation land to try and find a parking spot or to drop off people. And then they turn around and zoom back up Dover. So just again, we were just trying to think what would help, I think it was last year, for just like a week or two, you had one of those small electric signs flashing on a loop, that you're going too fast. I didn't know if we could do something for the whole summer season. Could it be on a loop saying something about speed limit 20 miles? You could even write on, have it flashing no swimming access, no alcohol or littering, fines applicable.
Yeah, I mean, we could definitely do that. I don't think I could promise it for the whole summer because they are in fairly high demand.
Yeah.
Those signs, but I could do two or 3 weeks probably.
Yeah.
At the beginning,
yeah. Could there also be like I don't know, we put a hard sign, some saying, some of these things on a hard sign going down. I don't know if that would help.
Pam, I
Yeah.
did a survey of the area and there's actually very good signage from Stone Route to up to Powder Mill to Plainfield. But it's still, it's, if there's nothing that happens to them, they'll keep doing it. And the thing about the people going to Sachem's is they'll speed down and drop off, speed out to park, speed down to pick up, speed out to go home. So you get 4 trips a lot of times for every family of people or group of people. And it is a lot of cars.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, and just a couple other things we were thinking about. And obviously I don't know how doable this is. Removable speed bumps for the summer months on Dover. And I guess a big thing is enforcement and ticketing of illegal parking in the neighborhood or down on the conservation land. And obviously you guys, police officers, don't know that's happening unless maybe we call. Last summer there was a lot of it. Again, it was just the perfect storm with, people wanting to get out and, maybe the police was stretched thin and stuff like that. But I think enforcing it, and maybe we need to, I don't know, Officer Holsinger, should call and tell you when we've got several cars, wrapped around Shore Drive parking. That happened a bunch last summer.
Yeah, no, we definitely, we wrote a lot of tickets. And I forget, whoever lives on the corner there of sort of the end of Dover and Shore Drive, they would call almost every time. And but I mean, personally, I went down there and someone just said, oh, well, just write me the ticket. It's worth the $20. But we also, by the end of last summer, we replaced or updated the no parking signs down there. Again, hopefully as long as, because there was some argument that, well, the signs aren't, that visible. So they have been updated.
Yeah.
And
Notice-
I think a couple were added.
I noticed when they did the survey, there were new signs. They were really nice new signs around there.
Yeah, those were put in, I think, towards the end of last summer.
How do you get a speed bump? Like something that, wouldn't be there for the winter, that it'd be in way of the plows, but
Yeah. Well, so Dover Street is unique because it's this sort of weird mix of a private road, but the town partially maintains it.
because of getting to the well
Yeah.
at the bottom.
If it was a public road, the town would not put in a speed bump. Because it's partially private, and the town wouldn't pay and install it, I don't believe, but I think because it's private, you might be able to on your own accord.
Okay.
That would be something, we actually have a traffic calming policy that I could send to somebody and you could fill out and return, and then that is then brought in front of the traffic management group, which is some staff from all the, fairly different departments like engineering, highway, town manager's office, police department, and people will review it and make sure it follows, policies and basically engineering standards.
Huh. Okay. Could you send that form to,
Yeah.
I guess, Carmen maybe? And
Yeah, I
Carmen-
have Carmen's email.
Okay.
So on that form, we can make a request like that. I guess maybe we need to get, agreement from the neighbors or something like that. I think as of last year, everyone is willing to try anything because
Yeah.
it was really dangerous. It was
Yeah.
really dangerous.
Yeah, the first part of the policy, it explains the steps. And yeah, it's like, you want to get, I think it's 75% of neighbors agree with it. And again, it has to meet engineering standards. And then at the end is the actual form. If you want, you can just fill that out. And, you can print it and fill it out by hand and just email it back or just mail it back to the police station. And then
So
we
you're
meet.
thinking, because this is like technically a private way, maybe it's something us neighbors have to get together and finance.
Yeah,
Do a speed bump or two.
yeah. I mean, I'll use the example of Forest Ridge Road. If anyone goes up to the Thoreau Club, so that's a private street, and I think they have 2 or 3 speed bumps. But that is, that one is not at all maintained by the town. They because there isn't, a town access point like the well. I think this is the reason why the town has agreed to maintain and plow it. But if, it's a purely private road, they can install speed bumps if they want to.
Yeah.
So it is kind of, that's what I don't want to speak out of turn, but those are just the examples I'm thinking of.
Okay.
And then the sign, yeah, is easy enough. We can do that.
Yeah, I think that helped a bit last summer.
Yeah, I can, if I find, I'll have to go out there. If I find a spot for one of the bigger trailers, I don't know if you know, they're probably 4 or 5 times as big as the small square speed boards. Then I can have it loop with different suggestions like speed limit, slow down, no swimming.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
That would be great.
I might have to, if I'm ringing on someone's doorbell, it's because I might it's kind of a narrow road. I might have to put it on your front lawn. That's okay.
Yeah, and please
try to find a spot.
Yeah, I'm at 13 Dover. And you can definitely park in my driveway, or I got maybe a big enough driveway to do that. So
yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, no problem.
And the rest I won't go the rest of this stuff, but again, I was trying to figure out who to send it, because I thought we did a fairly good job of just some common sense suggestions. Maybe I can send this to, Kate Hodges and the Delia, Jane, sorry.
Yeah, Pam.
Yes.
I think this would be, I'm happy to share it with both Delia and Kate. Or you're welcome to do it directly. I'm not trying to take anything away from you.
No, is this Jane speaking?
I'm sorry, I apologize. Yes, Jane Hotchkiss.
Oh, perfect. Yes, Jane, you're one of the people I was hoping this could get in your hands. And
oh yeah, I reviewed it earlier.
Yeah.
I think the only thing we're going to hear some discussion over is the no swimming, because that's one of those weird things that I think there's a way to say it, but I think we have to be careful. And I know that Delia has been, saddled with that.
Sure. Yes, I know that's a sensitive subject.
Jane, later in the meeting, I'll mention something that we might be able to try to take the load off Sachem's. It's
okay, great.
So yes.
Carmen?
But yeah, Jane, can I just ask a quick question? Why is, I'm familiar, why is no swimming a sensitive subject? Just out of curiosity.
Because great ponds, there are rules that you can't, there are certain things that are not allowed. You can't bar people from the water in the great ponds.
But that was it's fishing, fouling, that's obviously not anymore, and boating, but swimming is not listed for great ponds. It
Right.
isn't.
That's right.
It isn't.
That's true.
Like as I said, this is a point that I'm going to take the lead from Delia, and it's not that she's not sensitive to, but I think there's a way to nuance it, and because she's tried to figure this out as well. So
Hi,
This is Jim Ricker. I wonder if I could add.
Sorry, Jim, let me just finish. Jim, sorry, can I just finish, and then Jim, you're up.
Oh, sure.
So
Yeah,
Jane,
go ahead, Jim.
So Jane, whatever you think is best, if you want to share with Delia, or do you want, you have a relationship with her, I don't. I don't mind like emailing this to, Kate in the town management and Delia, or would you like to send it to her, or also the select board, or,
Right, well, I'm on the select board.
yes.
So if you want to email it to, you can email it to me and I will, and the select board, you can email it to me and I'll share it with the select board. You can, and I would suggest if you're going to email it to anyone in the town, just put me, CC me on the list, because then I can follow it up.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
One of the great things about this document is that appendix or attachment, because Jane did a lot of work and found all these existing laws that cover about litter and trash and parking and everything. So all those, you have all those web addresses. Those are existing laws that cover what we're concerned about.
That's great.
All right.
I've got,
Well, it's Jim's turn, but
Yes, Jim, I'll stop sharing. Thank you.
oh, there we are. Okay, I wasn't sure if I was coming through or not. Couple of thoughts on what we've been talking about. I mean, I think there are a lot of good ideas, and Pam, I commend you guys for what you all did. I'll share some history with you. I hope I don't drive people nuts doing this, but we can learn a little bit from what's gone on in the past. Probably Katie remembers. But the place was inundated, run over. I mean, you had no control over the neighborhood until the late 70s, when people finally got fed up and we put the parking program together, and that took 2 years to get the permit parking all the way through the various levels of town and state government. Signs went up, your car will be towed, you'll be ticketed and or towed. And initially people, kind of ignored it. It's like signs, they can be a nuisance and you ignore it. Then the police department really got active, and this was pretty early in the season. And I would say the first summer, it's a rough guess, but 200 cars were towed. And the word quickly got out without, I mean, we used pen and paper back then, but the word got out quickly that you go swimming at White Pond, or you go down there to drink or whatever, and you come back and you don't find your car, and then you have to go retrieve it and it costs you $75. The word got out so quickly because of the enforcement aspect. So I think coupled with, adequate and improved signage, enough of it, with some really aggressive enforcement over the first year or so, it'll have a big impact. People just won't want to take that risk. And I do appreciate, I saw a lot of patrols last summer, and I'm kind of in the middle of everything, so I didn't see a lot of ticketing because there weren't a lot of cars in our immediate area, because people really keep an eye on it and chase people out. The other thing that concerns me is I think the speed limits are too high. And I'm speaking for all of us as neighbors. Some of us are offenders of pretty high speeds, and we don't have any sidewalks. The streets are narrow. Dover's pretty good, but you get to the end of Dover and you turn onto Shore Drive. It's one lane, and the turn is pretty well secluded by, your vision is blocked by a lot of shrubbery and everything. So you literally have to crawl around that corner. We now have a lot of young kids in the neighborhood who are out riding bikes and skateboarding and all of that and having a ball. And it just scares the heck out of me that somebody's going to come around one of these corners, or a kid's going to come out of a driveway, and we're going to have a terrible accident. So my thought is, what if we considered making the speed limit through the neighborhood 15 miles an hour? Some parts of Shore Drive, that would be a little fast, but I don't know why you have to go 20 miles an hour down Dover Street either. And I don't know how much control we have over that, officer, as on private ways. Can we establish our own speed limits?
Not to my knowledge. So you can put up, there's two state laws that govern speed limits. One is that actually, of all streets, Dover actually does. They have a special speed regulation. So at some point, the state Mass Highway came out, did a speed study, and they obviously said, well, this is a very narrow street. We're going to make the speed limit as low as possible. And the lowest legal limit is 20 miles an hour. And that's what the speed limit is, on Dover Street. on all the abutting streets, there's basically no set speed limit. So
Right.
it would just fall under a thickly settled residential street, which is technically 25, but no one, I mean, no one's gonna drive 25 down those streets. But you can make, or put up advisory signs, and those are yellow versus the white, strict, like, hard speed limit signs, which are white. So you'll see those, if you notice, if you're ever driving down the highway, all the off ramps have, all different speed limit signs, but they're yellow. And that's just an advisory of saying, this is how fast you should take the off ramp, because there is no actual speed limit on that off ramp. They're just advising you, this is how fast you can safely take the off ramp. You'll even notice, I think, on Plainfield, they haven't had a special speed regulation put in place. So you see the yellow advisory signs there as well. So if we were going to go out and enforce speed on Plainfield, we would write a ticket under the general law of a thickly settled residential street of 25, but they have several, yellow advisory signs of 20 miles an hour,
Right.
especially around the corners. We could, there's the second sort of speed law is just speed that's reasonable and proper. And you could technically write a ticket for that as well. And it wouldn't have to do with the speed limit. You would just say that their speed, whatever it was, regardless of signage or anything, was just unreasonable and not proper. So you could, again, I'd want to check with engineering and the highway department, because I'm not sure the town would put up those signs, or if it would be on the association to buy them. And if you wanted to put up yellow advisory speed signs, because it's a private way.
I think the town bought the original set of no parking permit
Yes.
required signs,
Yeah.
but we all had to sign a liability waiver so that they could install them on our various properties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, something like that, if they signed liability waivers, they might put up, especially on Shore Drive, for example. I mean, it's definitely couldn't hurt to have a 15 or 10 mile an hour advisory sign, just warning people.
Yeah.
But
Well, thank you for.
Yeah,
listening.
that is, yeah. And
Can I
that's,
jump in here? Am I, could I have the floor? I have a parking and
Yeah.
enforcement question. What is the planned parking and enforcement for the parking lot up above the town beach? Will that be for patrolled, or, what's to prevent people, when Anson or Alden gets full, people start parking in that lot? And is there any thought been given to how to best manage that situation? Thank you. David, 20 Darton Street, Concord, Mass.
hey, David,
Hey,
I actually, to my knowledge, I don't think that's been determined yet. I think we're waiting to hear Concord Rec's plans. Because it's my understanding that even if you didn't buy a season pass, you could come park there for a daily pass for a certain fee. So I don't,
For a walk-on.
yeah, for a walk-on, and I don't think they would provide any a parking sticker or parking pass. I don't know how we would enforce any of that yet. I mean, I don't know if.
I know that last summer, a lot of people were parking there and then walking to Sachem Cove.
Yeah,
Many people. So it may turn out to be an issue for the town, because they can't even get their
Yeah, there
existing
might- yeah,
people
there-
wanting to use the beach
Yeah.
to have parking, if that continues to be an issue.
yeah. So I mean, I would assume that, the rec department will have to have some sort of parking pass issued for everybody using that parking lot.
They could do like we have, a cardboard that you get every year. It's a different color and we keep it on the dashboard. It says
Yeah.
you're a resident, that there might be something that they do like that, where you get a day pass. You get one of those, you hand it back at the end of the day, something like
Yeah,
that. Season passes would have it for the season.
yeah. Yeah, like I said, I don't want to speak out of turn. I don't know what their, what the larger towns plan is for the parking lot and in the association beach, but
We,
We have time to think about it.
yeah,
we at White Pond in running it, I mean, it was a job for somebody, not a high paying job for a kid who loved to read, and they guarded the parking lot and kept it managed, and that was not a high expense. And again, we chose
Yeah.
hours that were most, where the abuse would be most common. And so it was a very low budge solution to that for us. So I think that's something worth considering, because it's certainly not very expensive, because it could be a low wage because they're not trained to be a guard necessarily.
yeah,
But some kids really love to read, and they love sitting up there in the shade reading. And we had some very nice young people that worked that. I also wondered about Alden Road has about probably average 8 cars or something, and that's a known spot. And I know years ago they had gotten permit only, and then some of the residents said they didn't want that. But there's all new residents now in that whole corner. And I'm just wondering who would spearhead, because that's a good amount of cars that is very well known as a parking spot. And I just didn't know if someone, like, what's the process to gather the new people who moved in and say, hey, this is not helping our neighborhood.
yeah, they'd have, well, someone from that neighborhood, Alden Anson, would have to just fill out the traffic calming policy form saying they're requesting no parking or permit parking only. And it would just go through the same process of the traffic management group, and then approval. 75% of the residents would have to agree, and then it would go to the select board, because parking regulations have to be voted into our traffic regulations. So the select board would vote on it.
Because
I think
I
like-
could
like
maybe
Jim's-
try to
yeah.
talk to a couple of the new neighbors and see if anyone
Yeah.
wanted to, because I think it doesn't necessarily cause a big problem for those on Alden Road, other than it really causes a problem
Yeah.
for Dover and then Sachem Cove.
Yeah.
I think.
I think
Um,
that's, I mean, thinking of what maybe some of the town engineers would say is that it's tougher to restrict parking where parking isn't a safety hazard. Obviously Dover Street, Shore Drive, it's so narrow, you shouldn't really allow parking there to
Right,
begin
and
with. And then,
Anson and Alden are very wide. I mean, Anson,
Yeah.
they don't really go that far, but that corner in Alden,
Yeah.
there's a good 10
The lo-
spots
yeah.
that are full most of the summer, I see.
I think if you
And
didn't do both streets though, it would just push those,
it might.
8 to 10 cars further down.
It might, but
Yeah.
people do like as close as they can get.
Yeah, that's
So,
true.
But, okay,
But yeah, it's the
I think
same.
they did go through the whole process of getting a petition done in accordance whatever that process is, and had the 75%. And I happened to be there the night it went to the selectmen, and the town manager recommended not approving it because one resident, I believe, complained. And apparently he and someone else in town went over there and talked to people who were parking and said, "Are you from Concord?" And of course, 100% of the people said, "Why, yes, we're from Concord." That kind of killed it. But the sad part of that was a neighborhood thoughtfully put this whole thing together and had the right number of votes, and it kind of just got killed anecdotally.
oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I had heard they had gone through a process years ago, but it's really almost all new folks in that whole area now. And most brand new. So I think that it might be of interest. And they're definitely not Concord residents that are parking there. Most of the
Andrea,
license plates.
Andrea, if you could check on that, that would be great. Because
Yeah,
I mean, the more parking is hampered, the less attractive Sachem's is.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll see what I can do,
Okay.
to see if someone wants to spearhead that.
Pam, I think this is a great document, and with that attachment, with all the documentation of the laws, it's really good. Did you send that out to all the Dover property owners?
Not recently, I don't think.
I think you should. I think they didn't,
Okay.
they'd like to see that.
Yeah, I just thought it's only 2.25 pages. I think it's to the point. The town has done a great job in, did so much work back in Sachems Cove, putting those steps and the erosion control. I'd hate to see all of that undone. And I know last year was, a weird year. But we definitely wanted just to get our, some of the real big concerns, because they were just starting to get bigger and bigger and bigger. But I'll send it out to our neighborhood and also get Jane a copy. And
And
Pam,
we
Pam,
will
I have
attach
a
it.
copy. I'm just saying that when you send it officially,
okay,
just always CC me, because then whoever you send it to knows that I'm gonna be checking.
sure, good.
And we
Thank you.
can attach it to the minutes from our meeting tonight. And then I just wanted to make one comment about the write-up, Pam. It talked about the ranger, which we know we're going to have this summer, which is great, and the other position. But I think there was wording in there that talked about having the ranger be able to enforce. And that's been a subject that we've discussed many times. What do they have the power to do? Do they have enforcement powers? I don't believe so. I believe they can say, you're not supposed to do this or that. But
that's Jane Prentice, who's in our neighborhoods, who's very knowledgeable, was bringing that up as well. Like, what exactly can they enforce? But they could point to these laws on the book.
Yes, that was why Jane did that listing of the laws. The rangers are there, per Delia says, to educate. And they can educate by pointing out, by having a list of these laws and, and being familiar with them and pointing out, this is an actual law that I'm telling you about.
But I think the police.
And I want everybody to know that the rangers are coming back, but they're not coming back full time they're going to be doing lots of properties. I just want to make sure everybody understands that. They're not going to be
True.
exclusive. Like 1 year they were exclusive to White Pond. That's not happening.
No.
But we also talked about, and Officer Hilsinger can help with this, if, we had said if there was the signage, and I know Delia is working on getting new signage, but I don't know if that's a different signage than the police department can do, because the laws of no drinking, for example, are enforceable. So, could there be signs from the police department perspective that say no drinking under, whatever, punishment by fine or things like that? Or is that a combined effort with the NRC? I don't know.
That's a good, where the sign at the bottom would have per CPD. Is that what you mean, Beth?
Yeah, so there's one thing that say whatever, no animals swimming, maybe no swimming. I know that's contentious right now, but can there be other signs that say no drinking, by Concord Police Department enforces this, ruling or whatever it is? Could there be some strong language that shows there is a consequence? Because that's one of the problems. There's no consequence.
Mm-hmm.
That's a question for you.
Yeah, no, it's my understanding that, I can't think of another area in town where we post signs and regulations. It's especially in, conservation areas. Natural Resources always does that. I think most of their signs do say no alcohol. I think most people know that, obviously drinking in public is illegal.
Yeah, but nothing says the consequence, right? And that's why we had talked earlier about that there could be a penalty for this. I know you said earlier in our meeting tonight that you actually have ticketed people for certain things if you've gone
Yeah.
down there. And
Yeah, I mean,
I think
personally, I know I have. I mean, I've caught underage kids drinking down there, and we've summoned them into court. I know.
Yeah.
I mean, if you sort of, I mean, I'll put it this way: I just went to a training that said less enforcement and more engagement. So, I mean, that's the I think the way most police departments are heading. I mean, obviously, we still will enforce laws, but I think that society in general is, you know, is trying not to be so black and white with enforcing laws in general.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense, obviously.
But again, I think whoever you're dealing with at the time sort of dictates the outcome. You know, if they are say, "Oh, geez, sorry, I didn't realize," you know, I'll get out of the water or whatever. You know, that's one situation. If someone is intoxicated and just, you know, unruly, then that's a completely different situation.
Okay, thank you.
It's the
I don't know if
ranger, it is a very hard job. I had a friend who was one and just spoke often of just having no consequence. And when people are hot and they want to swim and they've made a big effort to get there, it's really tough to say, you know, you can't do that. And then they kind of just thumb their nose at you and say, you know, so it was a very hard job. And I think that is really hard. And so the more discouraging we can do by, I mean, I think it would be great to, I know that when we worked with the selectmen before we gifted the beachfront to the town, it was, a lot of the talk was, well, then when the town owns the beach, we won't have the problems at Sachem Cove. And,
Thank you.
And so they were so thankful that we were going to do this gift. It was a big deal. And you know, we had been running it for, you know, many years. So, and they really said, well, you know, if we don't have the other, we're always going to have this other problem. And I'm just sad to hear that last year, I didn't know it was as bad. I was gone a lot of the summer, but so it's just sad to hear that, because it was really said, when we have the other, we will be able to take care of protecting this conservation land. And it just doesn't sound like that's happening. And I'm not sure I have the answer, but I think it really needs to be thought through, because it's obviously not working in that way that they had really thought it would, because they've made the beachfront accessible. Anyone, there are day passes. A lot of times it was very empty. Yeah. And so even with their boxes and distancing and everything, it was very empty. So I think things have to be looked at a little more closely, of some solutions to that.
We can import some more Fisher cats and some bobcats and ask them to roam the neighborhood during the day. Use fear. I don't know. I heard there was a bobcat attack the other day.
Well, you know, there's that, if you drive on 225 coming out of Carlisle towards Westford, if you look up, somebody's put a big, like, Sasquatch. You know, you could put, you know, people could hide things in the trees.
Yeah, there we go. Signs that, you know, we could put paper towel or little paper signs up, attack dog, watch out.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right.
I am kidding.
You know, we come back to this enforcement. That's all we talked about our last meeting. It's a common thread to a lot of our discussions.
It is. So wait, anything more for Officer Holsinger or Jim?
Question, Carmen, are you folks in the department doing any advanced planning around the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail and Corey North and Sudbury, and the impact on the conservation land and the cove and so forth? Because it's going to be a lot of people who will have easy access.
Yeah, we did have a meeting with the Quarry North developers, and I think that's a whole nother issue. That seems like the town is gonna push back on them expanding further back into the town of Concord, which they want to do. They want to have part of the development be in Concord,
Right.
closer to the pond. And then, I mean, again, this is just from the police perspective, is obviously with the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail, we've purchased, all new bicycles, more bicycles, sent more officers to training for the bike training. It's called cobweb training. So we're trying to get up and running before that starts, because there already has been issues. Acton's had more robberies along the trail. We've had some, indecent exposure type issues associated with the trail. So we're trying to, especially in the nice weather, be up and running to patrol that. And we've got some electric bicycles too, so we don't even have to pedal.
That's good.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Helsinger, we really appreciate you coming. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you
You can
very
just-
much.
Thank you.
Everyone just call me Ron next time, please.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you
of
for coming.
course.
It's
Thank
always
you.
good to have that collaboration with the
Yeah.
police department. I think it's really wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. And Carmen, I'll send you that traffic calming policy, and if you could send that out
I will.
to everyone so they can, if they want to forward it to Alden, or whoever, and if you want to combine Jim and Pam, if you want to say, we're looking at possible, temporary speed bumps and advisory speed signs on some of the side streets, you could ask for all those on the same form.
That'd be great.
Great.
That'd be
Thank
great. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming.
Yeah, of course. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Pam, I like that idea. If we can get a speed bump, that makes people stop, and you should probably get 2 of them, because, they have the sign coming in, slow down the 20, but then they're coming back out and there's no sign that way. And you just forget, speed up. But
Yeah, I mean, I wonder how much, hopefully, is it $5,000 to get a speed bump? I don't know what that is, but I definitely look into it.
Yep, definitely.
I'll follow up, Carmen, with you in a little bit
Okay.
to see if Ron sent you that email.
And then the other question for everybody to think about is, if you're gonna, as a private area owners group, apportion money and buy a speed bump or 2, you got to figure out where it's gonna get stored.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Okay. Next, I'm going to talk about the Bruce Freeman Trail site walk that took place on March 18th. Papers. Marcia
Sounds like a disaster,
Rasmussen.
huh?
I'm sorry.
Oh, I just said it sounded like it was a disaster.
Well, it is a bit of a disaster, but it's not hopeless. Marcia Rasmussen handed out a memorandum at the site walk. Now, she's the town planner. She's excellent at her job. And I'm going to read this paragraph for you. That through follow-up discussions with Mass Department of Transportation and design consultant, I've learned that the 75% design plans dated 2016 for the last half mile in Concord had not gotten fully reviewed in 2015 and 16 by the state agencies responsible for this portion of the trail, and it was removed from the project at that time due to concerns about there was going to be a turnaround in the woods when they thought that Sudbury might not do this, might not do the trail. Because Sudbury's doing the trail, the turnaround was not to be, and somehow there was a mix up with the review. The outcome of it is from the center of the trail out 50 feet each way is federal land. And the Massachusetts Department of Transportation is acting for the federal government in this project, overseeing that.
So 1 second, how far? 50 feet?
50 feet out from the center, both ways, going left and right. Okay. So they don't like fencing. They don't allow fencing unless there's a danger to somebody on the trail. Say somebody on a bike, if they fell off it, or somebody walking fell off, and maybe there would be a slope and they could tumble down. That's the only time they allow fencing. So all the fencing plans for that strip of the trail that we had are void. In walking, but they did picked out 2 sections on the pond side of the trail. When that, I don't know how to describe it, by the culvert, there's that big piece of dirt that comes down, the hill of dirt that comes down, and then it gets even with the trail. And I think that's where the Brown house is on Mitchell. Okay, there's a vernal pool there. So that they approved for an individual section of wooden rail fence, 36 inches high. How long it is, I didn't get from Thomas, went on the site walk for me. And then further on, there's right when you can see the pond, they approved another single section of rail fence there because the ground falls away. So that's all that they will allow for fencing on that trail. Now, I want to tell you before I go on anymore, tomorrow night is the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail meeting at 7 p.m. It's Zoom. The agenda and the Zoom are on the website, the town website. The Stone Group people know about this. They're going to be there. Marcia Rasmussen will be there, and the representative from Massachusetts Department of Transportation that's dealing with this is going to be at that meeting. So if you're at all concerned about this, I really urge you tomorrow night to go to that meeting at 7 o'clock. I will definitely be going.
Carmen, this is a question. How, you said Stone Root residents are all aware. How were they made aware?
Well, I think they might have been on the walk. They might have had a representative on the walk. Like, we were allowed to have one person on the walk, the White Pond Advisory Committee.
But are you saying like Stone Root has
They have an
group just like
organization.
they have an association?
They
Because
do. They have-
nobody's, wouldn't the town or somebody or MassDOT or whoever have to notify people about these things?
Oh, I'm sure
Just
the
like
Bruce
we have-
Freeman, yeah, the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail probably notified them because they were at a meeting in February. They had a big meeting. They had a big presence at the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail meeting, the Stone Route.
And I'm asking these questions because, you know, we have on White Avenue, and I guess partly Mitchell even, you know, we don't have an association over on this end, but there's houses the same thing that abut this area. And you and I, and our board has talked about, you know, fencing and getting into the White Pond Beach from the rail trail as well. So I don't think anybody here is aware of that. And they are also abutters.
Nobody was aware of this till that site walk.
No.
I didn't want to put this information out early because I didn't want a lot of consternation about it. I was hoping, you know, unfortunately, the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail is after our meeting. I think there'll be answers there. And the thing is, at that 50-foot line, the town can do, on the Stone Route side, it's going to be up to their yards and it's going to be up to what they do, I think. But on the pond side, the town can do fencing or planting at the 50-foot line. That's fine. It's just, and it's not going to be that far down the hill. And Marcia said that Sudbury's only at 75% planned right now. They have to get approvals now for the 75%. Then it goes back They have to go to 100%. They have to go for more approvals. Nothing is going to happen on that strip in Concord until Sudbury has 100% plans and they've got their approvals, and Marcia estimates nothing before 2023 at the earliest, if then. So nothing's going to happen on that strip. So there's plenty of time to think of another solution. And, you know, the town was going to put in a 6-foot-high metal fence on the pond side to protect the pond. So that the town is aware. You know, they were going to budget for that. The town is aware that it's important to protect the pond. And I'm sure Marcia and the town will think up something else, another plan. But I urge anybody who's concerned about this to please go to the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail tomorrow, because that's when you're going to hear a lot of information. You've got a lot of the best informed people there. So it's 7 o'clock tomorrow night.
Does the 50 feet, is that tied to the former railroad right of way, Carmen? Is that where the 50 feet came from?
I
I
don't know
believe it
that.
is.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Marcia sent me an email a couple days ago, and she said she received some deed information from Jane Coutre regarding the right to cross the railroad right of way, which she will share with Mass DOT, along with additional information I found on the Middlesex South Registry of Deeds website. So, you know, I would think tomorrow you would hear about that, or I'll hear about that. But she didn't explain that further, Jim.
Just so you know, way before, I believe it was probably in 2012, or I was asked by the town select board to be on the rail trail committee to represent White Pond because of my work with the beachfront and understanding the people management being a big issue. So I spent 2 years on that committee to just get the rail trail approved. And I have to say, some of that was, including this fencing, was part of getting it approved in the first place. So it's really sad to hear that 2 years that I spent representing the pond is probably for naught. It's a little bit sad to hear. And I know it's many years later, I know things change, but it's still, that was some of the basis for having it approved in the first place. So it's just sad to hear, because that was really to really bring to the attention as the rail trail was being created. And it's an important thing. Rail trails are amazing and provide great community things, but just to keep in mind people management and how important it was. And that was a role I had asked by the selectmen for 2 years. And it was, so I don't know, that was sad to hear, just letting you know.
Well, it was a surprise to Marcia. And I mean, she knows everything that goes on. I mean, at the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail meetings,
she was involved back then. So I just think it's like, wow, that's interesting.
It was some goof about the plans and that turnaround, and it sounded like something didn't get through on the plans, you know, so that's why it wasn't known about it. But like I say, the town can still do something at 50 feet out to protect the pond. It's not hopeless at all.
Yeah. And I hope they'll really consider that people management piece, because I think, again, it's just important. If Sachem Cove's already being overruled, wow, it's going to be a very different issue.
Our committee has had an idea about something that might help with that. And I talked a little bit to Delia about it, and she wants me to talk to the recreation department about it. And I'm not going to say too much about it now, because we'll see what happens, but there might be a way that we can accommodate people at the beach end that are non-residents with special day passes, you know, the same thing. And maybe their time, maybe they can only be there an hour or something like that. And it has to be, there's a load amount for beach area. There's the parking lot, the, limit of the parking lot. And we talked about maybe that area to the north side of the boat launch. It's town land. It's not big, but there's a piece of town land there. There's some vegetation on it, and you could get some new sand on it. And that could actually be just, we were thinking that's where non-residents might be able to be. Delia said, well, maybe it's just the beach gets enlarged by that piece, and it's all mixed. So, it's something that I'm supposed to talk to to Anna, I'm sorry, there's a new director of the, her last name, I think it's Anna McCowan. She's the new director of the Recreation Department. So I'm going to talk to her and talk to Kate about this. And there might be a way, then the Rangers could say, you're not supposed to go off the land swimming here, but look, there's another arrangement in town where you can swim at the other end, where you have lifeguards nearby, where you have easy parking, where you have bathrooms. So that instead of saying, no, you're not supposed to be here. Well, actually, you're supposed to be at the other end and you can call and get passes. Concord's always been, to me, this very kind of open, accommodating town that wants everybody to enjoy the natural resources that they have. And I think that there should be a way that that could be done. And of course, there's not going to be any drinking if they're at the beach, and there's not going to be any fires, and there's not going to be, litter and trash. They'll be better behaved because there's supervision there. But it's something we have to see if we can work out.
Thank you for working on that.
It's in process. I also want to tell people on April 7th at 7 p.m., National Resource Commission is having a public hearing about the improvements to the White Pond Improvement Plan. So April 7th at 7 p.m., you might want to go to that. I'll send out reminders like next week when it gets closer, but I guess Natural Resource now has to look over what the plans are and get some approvals to them. And I wanted to bring one more thing out. Beth Kelly did a marvelous job. She brought up the fact that there's a lot of fishing line that's around the pond. It's just left on the beach. And that there were these, I'd never seen them before, but there are these recycling containers for filament. And she did a lot of calling and emailing around and found out mostly you have to put this together. Delia said they would put them, but she found, Beth, why don't you say, are you still here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here.
I'm sorry. That you were going to get, she got some for free, right?
It's interesting because there's so many videos and how to construct your own monofilament fishing line receptacle units. And so I was emailing. In fact, I just sent Carmen, I just returned from Maui today and I took a picture of one in Maui. And it's this gigantic recycling issue throughout estuaries and oceanfront and lakefronts in the United States, but everybody has to make them themselves. So in the meantime, I think I know a new business I'm going to start. But besides that, I found out that the fishing, like companies that sell fishing lures and line, one of them is called Berkeley, and they actually, towns and these estuaries and cities will send them the line because they have a special way of recycling it because it's so damaging to the environment. So Berkeley, after I emailed them a few times, they said, how about we just send you a few and gift them to you? And I was like, what? That's so great. So I've emailed Delia and I'm hoping that, I just got home, so I don't know if they're here yet because my neighbor was picking up packages, but we can kind of walk around because the worst offenders obviously are, not obviously, obvious to me from walking, we're in Sachem's Cove. And I'm sure there's some really right by where the Fisher people go, where the drive is. But I'm excited because then we'll have a place for that to go and it doesn't harm the environment. We'll have to maintain them, obviously. And take the stuff and recycle to Berkeley, but I want to maybe put something in an article in the patch and give them some kudos for actually donating to our town. So I'm excited about that. And I hope we'll have them soon. And I'll take a walk with Delia or maybe the new guy who we just mentioned to show some of the spots where I've seen these. I don't know how many they're going to send us, but he will be the one who installs them. You just kind of put them on a post and dig them to the ground. And it's for, you just put your line right in there so it doesn't get left on shore and trap turtles and stuff.
I know I've
How's
seen
that?
them, I don't know what these look like. I've seen them in other areas like in Florida. And what I have noticed is that sometimes people don't know what it's for and it's for cigarette butts and trash. And they
absolutely.
just didn't know, so they haven't been labeled well. And then others you
Yeah.
can see seem to be being used well. So I think you have to be really careful that people understand it's not for cigarette butts or,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. And I did send Delia a website from NOAA that will provide us with 5 stickers for free, but they also suggest that you get signage created, and they're like $20 each that specifically say what it is.
Yeah.
And I also noticed even in my research that the cigarette butts was the first thing I thought of as well, even with the signage, because people just, and we've seen it in the Cove, people just are not really responsible for cleaning up after themselves. You can kind of put a plug in there so that it would just be for fishing line kind of, people will still abuse it, but at least maybe that's better too than we won't have cigarette butts all over the shore. But
Right.
signage is definitely something that I did mention, and I gave her the link for that because that would be, something that NRC would have to purchase, I believe, and it's not expensive.
Yeah, that's
So
great.
very good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great, Beth. It was such a great idea. I never heard of them. I've never seen them, and it's wonderful. I've seen the fishing line. Yeah. So does anybody have anything else I want to put forth? Okay, shall we close the meeting?
Sure. I move that we adjourn.
I second.
Okay. Thank you. Thank everybody for coming. Thank you, Jane, for being here. I know you had
Thank you,
another
everyone.
meeting.
I'm happy to do it.
Thanks,
So
everyone.
Pam, I will look for
Bye-bye.
your stuff.
Thank you.